Bradford, home to more than 500,000 people and one of the first cities in the UK to be recognised as a city of sanctuary for those fleeing persecution. But in the complex, difficult area of child protection, there is a concern among its refugee communities that mothers are not getting the support they need and children are being taken into care.
You don't take children away and then the mother just go into crisis. You want to protect the children at the same time, support these parents who have been through a lot before they reach to safety, and when they reach to safety, they need support in order to be able to look after and to bring up their children.
What I know and what I want to say is, if I knew before, when I was still in the camp, if I knew that once here they could take my children away, although life was hard in the camp, I wish I could stay in the camp.
I know one girl, she said, I couldn't say for him no, or I don't like he do like these things, bad things. I know it is bad things, but I couldn't say no, because if I say no for him, he will go and complain for me, and I am scared if I lose my child.
We came from the different communities, and we came from the different countries, and for us, is from the culture from here and from our country, it's make like a big shock for us of our children.
With a backdrop of an overall increase in children in need referrals since pre-pandemic levels, and the council declaring children's services expenditure was threatening the city with bankruptcy, plus the service itself being moved to a trust following an Ofsted judgment of inadequate, the task for social workers on the doorstep is not easy.
Because when we knock on doors, people often go to that fear that we are there to remove children. And so you've got a lot of work to do to be able to build trust, to be able to have a relationship, to begin to start the work that you need to do.
But can more social workers and refugee mothers improve their understanding of each other? Can we protect children and support the mothers? Asumani is the founder of the Bradford African community. He spent over 16 years in a refugee camp before coming to the UK. It's an experience others who come to get help from the organisation share.
Yeah, when I got into a refugee camp, it was hard. It was built in a forest. We were given our tents by UN, and yeah, we built our small tent houses, and we started living there. At that time, the camp was new. I was in Tanzania. The Tanzania protocol about refugees is that a refugee is not allowed to go over 5 miles, because their policy is to keep a refugee in that camp and not to go out. So life in camp is not good. It's not good. It's like you are in a cage and with nothing, and just you are there to rely, waiting the humanitarian agency to come and support you.
One of the mothers supported by the African community grew up experiencing the horrors of war in Congo.
We were fleeing all the time, and the war ended. We came back where we were living before. My grandma, who was taking care of me, passed away. Then I met my husband, and I got married as an orphan when I was very young.
This mother fled a further 2 times. The second time the family got separated and her husband was killed as he ran. She and her 4 children arrived at the border with Burundi and were taken to a refugee camp.
Burundi, in Muyinga camp. Life was tough there. Whenever you went for food, They were giving us food monthly. They were giving us beans, very hard to cook. Sometimes we could take the food they were giving us to sell it, and from there looking for shoes for children, buying some vegetables for children, because it was hard to wait for the end of the month to get another food, and sometimes we could run out of food before the end of the month.
Asumani believes that social workers face a difficult task.
Social services face a significant dilemma between protecting children at the same time the need to support mothers. Most refugee families, they come from governments that are not trusted, and some governments, in their original countries have been bullying, the people they were supposing to support. So when a refugee move from their home countries, they go into the refugee camps. From refugee camp to UK, when they reach to safety, that experience doesn't go away. And you will see that that level of mistrust is transferred to, it's extended to social service. They don't understand that things in UK are done differently.
For social workers working in the environment where issues of child protection are at play, then we are governed by legislation and by statutory guidance and obviously local authority policy. So fundamentally, there is boundaries and expectations and responsibilities that are placed at the foot of social workers in terms of what it is they're supposed to do. And some of the fundamental issues and some of the underpinning principles come from, like, the 1989 Children Act, which stipulates we must work in partnership with children and their parents, and that the wishes and feelings of the child are paramount, and that wherever possible, court and removing children should be the last thing that we consider.
Jill spent 14 years as a social worker in child protection and family support before going into academia. She believes that social workers need to be skilled professionals to be able to do their jobs.
Social work is about the fight and push for social justice and for equality. So how we work with people in very difficult and tense situations when it comes to child protection is to do it with grace, respect and humility. So there is a lot of things that social workers have to be mindful of and think about and be skilled at when working in these complex situations, because also they have to be able to demonstrate a large degree of emotional intelligence, because what you're trying to manage is the expectations and understanding of others, and also a lot of their distress.
Women from different countries and backgrounds come together at the weekly women's club run by Basan Refugee Community Group. Here, fears and worries about social workers are not uncommon.
I'm not saying that when I'm a parent I have to be hard on my children, because I love them. Having 9 months carrying them in my womb, that is a very strong bond between me and my child, because I love that child and I want to train that child to grow and to be the person I want out of my child. So to me, to be honest, I feel a bit stressing, and it's a challenge as a parent that I am having a baby, but I can't train or tell him or him what to do or know what to do, because I'm afraid or scared that my child is going to report me to school, and the next thing I'm going to lose my own child.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I remember our grandmother,
Yeah.
before they tell us a story, even if your neighbor or any other person, a big person, beat the children,
It
and
is.
you come home,
is.
you come home crying and say, who beat me? Who beat you? Arafat.
Yeah.
They just ask you first, what have you done?
Yeah. And that's why Arafat paid you. Yeah.
You must done wrong things that Arafat beat you. But here, if you beat another person,
You
children,
will be in trouble. I know what
Yes.
you mean. Yeah.
even that children, that child you beat, and say, I'm calling for you, a police.
Another challenge that is cultural differences. These families have a different culture and different beliefs on child rearing, discipline, and family dynamics. So the challenge for social services is how to navigate those cultural differences in order to distinguish which is cultural practices and which is abusive behavior. And that is another challenge they face. For example, on physical discipline, most refugees from third world countries and the Middle East and Africa, slapping or using object like a belt stick to discipline a child, it's normal. But here UK, UK perspective, that it's illegal. And when it causes injuries, social services cannot accept. It's not acceptable because that's abuse. So someone who grow up in those environments, oh, my daddy, my grand uncle used to do this to me. Why someone want to take away because I'm disciplining my child? So it doesn't click into their head. And it's lack of awareness and lack of understanding.
But social workers can't just go, I'm sorry, you can't do that. It's not acceptable, because you're leaving parents whose cultural background, it's happened to me, it never did me any harm, this is how we discipline children. What's their alternative if there's no education and if there's no support? So it's a process of education, but more importantly, when you're trying to educate and offer different ways, there has to be the trust. There has to be a relationship. If I'm trying to persuade you to leave 30 years of your cultural experiences of being brought up as a child, of experiencing physical punishment yourself, and I'm going, no, not here, not in this country, you're not doing it. And if you are doing it, there will be severe consequences. I have to be able to do that in a respectful manner, building trust and helping adults to recognise the different ways in which discipline can work.
Many refugees in Bradford are thankful to escape war and the struggle for survival in a refugee camp, but starting life in the UK can be tough.
Life was okay. Maybe I'm not saying the truth. When I used to live, the owner of the house and the neighbors, they started assaulting children and ask us to leave the area. That was when we arrived. I remember when social services started coming at home. It was when we were abused by neighbors. That day, our neighbors came and they broke down the kitchen door, and that's the first time social services started getting in my case.
Social workers became concerned about how the children were being cared for. The mother describes her relationship with a series of social workers as being hampered by a language barrier, including interpreters speaking a different form of Swahili to her, that she was not understood and couldn't express herself properly, and there was a big gap in cultural understanding between them. Things came to a head.
So,
When I arrived at home, I found police at home. They put the children, because we had 2 living rooms, they put the children in 1 living room. I sat down. Then the police said, "We need to go somewhere with you. We need to speak with you. We need to take you with us. There's something we need to ask you." I said, "I need to take my baby with me." They said no. They took me like a criminal.
Yeah.
And they put me in their car. I said, "I can't fight with them. I can't do anything." Then they start fighting with children. Children were crying, screaming, and they said, "We need to go where Mom is." They were fighting with children until they tied their hands, because neighbors were taking picture and filming the scene.
When they receive those reports, they need to involve the community setting. They need to learn the background of that individual. Where is she coming from? What is her background? Why this may be happening? Is it cultural practices, or is it really this lady is doing some abusive, she has some abusive behavior? There is a really huge need and a demand once people are settling in to sit down, to learn, because those people to settle down, to settle, they will have been here for some time, and they will understand. They will see the challenging that they've been going through due to language barrier, due to system being new. At that time, I think it's a good opportunity for them then to come to meet a professional from social services, maybe charity organization, maybe our law enforcement, for example, the police safeguarding, to sit with those people down and then have discussion, which will help in a constructive way to help those parents struggling.
Yeah. It was very difficult in the camp. Young girls were raped, destroyed their life while they were still very small. I had my little girl. She was not raped. I was going with her wherever I was going. And I was scared of someone to come and to rape my daughter and destroy her life.
Mimi sijui nitasemaje. Ningejipa kitumaini.
I should have hope if I had all my children with me. I should have hope saying that I passed through all this struggle, and my children didn't die during the war. I brought them here.